That's the job. We almost had our own 40 years. We're matching. Aha.
Also now the men.
Yeah. Right. So and he said, let's. So he said, he tells the Rebbe, the Rebbe should take it back. And Tzaddik Oizer, Kodesh Baruch Hu Mekayim, and the Rebbe could bring the goal. Why should we bring Mashiach? And the Rebbe became very, very unhappy. The Rebbe said, no, this is exactly what I said by the Sikha, that it's time. Don't tell me what I have to do. I know what I have to do. He says, I know my job, and I give the answers. And when people write to me tzetlach, I bring it to the oil, and I bring it to the oil. And the Frierdiker Rebbe takes care of what he has to take care of. Either he gives a bracha, or Tzaddik Oizer Kodesh Baruch Hu Mekayim, or some other way. It was a very interesting style that I was speaking.
People are actually counting.
Yeah, and actually, that was on Shabbos. Someone got up and was crying and told it. No. All the years it was very clear, or at least there was this understanding, if it was correct understanding or misunderstanding, but there was room to understand that way from the Rebbe and from the Rebbe as well. In other words, yes, we're Chassidim and we follow the Rebbe and we do the Rebbe's in Yanim. And the Rebbe is the commander-in-chief. In other words, the Rebbe is the one bringing the Gula. That's the Rebbe's mission. Right? In Basi Lagani, the Rebbe takes on the Nesias, the Shvi, and the Rebbe says the mission is to bring the Gula. And we're like part of the Chevre, we go along. But I'm going to bring Mashiach. The Rebbe brings Mashiach, and we're trying to be part of it. And all of a sudden, the Rebbe says, in other words, the Rebbe, in a way, didn't deny that was the reality till now. The Rebbe said, I did all that I can, and now I'm giving it over to you. Right? I can't give you over to you the mission to bring Mashiach. Who am I to give it to you? For someone to give you the mission, that means it was his mission, and he's giving you the mission. He's delegating it to you. So, in other words, there was an acknowledgement on some level that the Rebbe was saying, this is what was my shlichus till now. And now I'm giving you the shlichus. So imagine you're standing there, and the Rebbe is telling you, this was my shlichus for the last 40 years, and now I did all I can. It didn't work out. It was a complete failure. And now I'm giving it to you, and you do all you can to bring Mashiach. To accept that, you have to either be a massive, maimin be'emunah pshuta, the Rebbe said it, or you have a massive grandiosity complex, right? Yeah.
The fancy word called grandiosity.
As alternative, you have to use as many English words as possible. As Kiyadua, that's the.
Write in English now. Grandiosity.
Basically, to believe on your own that you're the one bringing Mashiach, or the Rebbe.
How do you say Zazua in English? I don't know. Is there good English over there? No, in English. Zazua. The Olam was blown away. The Olam was not
The Israeli papers, the next in Yediot Achronot, the day later, 2 days later, they wrote the title of the there was like a press release, or it wasn't a press release because it wasn't from Chabad, it was like from the Israeli news. Harabi Milubavitch Yesh Me'avat Mashiach. All right, the Rebbe gave up and bringing Mashiach. That was what was it supposed to mean? Like, I did all I can, and the Rebbe said the Rebbe used words. When the Rebbe edited the Sikha, the Rebbe changed it. The Rebbe took out the words Lehevel V'Larik, and the Rebbe changed it to Loi Hoyil. Didn't help. But when the Rebbe said it, Lehevel V'Larik is an extremely strong statement. All I did is Lehevel V'Larik. So the Rebbe for 40 years is changing the landscape of Klal Yisrael in the world, and Lehevel V'Larik. And
it's only Lehevel V'Larik because the Mashiach's not here yet.
Right, for sure. But look, we're coming in hindsight. We're coming 30 years later, and we studied the Sikh so many times, and we're explaining the Sikh and making sense out of it. But this is in real time, standing there, and they're like holding on to the bimah, shaking the bimah, and saying, "It's all." Many people thought that the Rebbe. They wrote to the Rebbe about Chassidim. They thought the Rebbe is not going to come down to Farbrengen anymore. That the Rebbe was davening. Won't come down, but no more Farbrengens, no more Polis. No one knew. It was a new language. So on Shabbos, you can't see it. In other words, we only have a transcript of it for Farbrengen. But on Sunday, by dollars, a few people came to the Rebbe, and this is on video. The video's out there. You see Mordechai and David comes to the Rebbe. A lady comes to the Rebbe. Mordechai and David comes and gives the Rebbe eitzes. Maybe the Rebbe should come with Klal Yisrael to the Kaisel and bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe was like, "Listen, you're coming to bring me, give me eitzes." I'm saying, I said, now it's your job.
Yeah, but the strikeouts of the
like Leimer Mem Gimel, yeah. It's. I understand that there was a tkufin like in the memes where he just stayed away. He was scared. With like Boimer, and he was just singing, and there was a misunderstanding. They gave it to the Rebbe like one of the parades, Gimel. Now it's almost 40 years ago. So they wrote into the before the rally, before the parade, the Seder Hayoy, or the schedule. And so when the kids are going to sing, and when obviously the highlight when it starts is Yossi Goldstein's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? Right? And then there's this guy, and then obviously JJ Hecht, and then floats. So somehow when they wrote it, so basically they wrote when MBD is. So it said something to the effect of like Mordechai and David, Achar Rebbe. So the understanding was the way that the Rebbe wrote it. The understanding was the Rebbe will come out. Mordechai and David is Achar Rebbe. After the Rebbe comes out, the Rebbe meant Acharei, or Mordechai and David. The Rebbe wasn't writing in Hebrew. The Rebbe was writing as in bullet points. First Mordechai and David, then Achar is an Achar Kach. Afterwards, the Rebbe should come out. So the Rebbe comes out, and then after JJ does his whole introduction, the Shimon Yochai of our generation, and there was a whole to do. And the Rebbe comes out on the carpet, and the Rebbe comes out waiting for the. So Mordechai and David starts singing nigunim, one nigun, second nigun, a third nigun, and the Rebbe then turns and says, "Come to a concert." Like, well, what is this? I have a seder. You have to go to the oil today. There's the whole, and they're like, and they shut him down in the middle of the nigun. It was really not.
Obviously, prime. Mendy, you can handle it like that, and then.
Yeah. Right, but what's crazier is this lady that comes by on Sunday.
You went by dollars, told the Rebbe that what?
You went by dollars, tells the Rebbe that a great idea. Maybe the Rebbe should come, should go, with the Mishlachas, the whole delegation, headed by the Rebbe to the Koisel, and actually ask for Mashiach. Like the Rebbe said, what can I do? So he has an eitzah. This is what we could do.
With all due respect to what the Rebbe said and what we try to do, look where we are now.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. You're saying we're not that much smarter than Mordechai and David.
31 years later.
31 years
later, and she has to live now. Right. And we're living, trying to live up to something that, unfortunately, with that, it's hard to get a real direction. Now, what we're doing. Just do everything you can.
You got to poke them out the down and tell you exactly.
No, I know.
What was that?
Poke down, nothing. What good guys mean? More connected now. 100%.
I don't know how to ask him many times.
Right. No, so it's actually it's true. It's a true point. I'm saying it's a reality, but part of the vert is what the Rebbe was saying is don't ask me. In other words, that was exactly the thing. That's basically what the Rebbe said at the end of the Sikha. The Rebbe said that you should have one or two or three people should come together, figure out what to do and how to do. Which itself is also a massive pillar. Like, since when do Chassidim figure out what to do and how to do? You're Chassidim. The Rebbe come. There's Eiros, there's Miftzoyim, there's Sikhas. Figure out what to do and how to do. What is this? It's, Chabad is becoming a democracy, becoming a capitalist society. What's exactly happening here? But obviously, there was something there that basically said that now it's you have to take achrayus and figure out what to do. But on Sunday, so this lady comes to the Rebbe, and it's actually when you see it, it's very hard to understand how the Rebbe is responding to her. She basically tells the Rebbe, it looks like she lost a child at a young age, and she tells the Rebbe, I lost my child and I want my child back. And I believed and I trust in the Rebbe. The Rebbe is going to bring Mashiach. And now the Rebbe said, giving up, it's like she lost any hope that she'll see her child again. Like, how could the Rebbe drop the ball? How could the Rebbe do such a thing? I want my child back. And the Rebbe, and like you see her, she's like in such a tragic sermon, and the way she's asking, and the Rebbe just doesn't budge. And the Rebbe is saying, I said everyone has to do it. The Rebbe says, yeah, but you're a Rebbe, you can do it. Well, we can't do it, you could do it. The Rebbe said, if I'm a Rebbe, if you believe that I'm a Rebbe, if I'm a Rebbe, then I said that you should do it, and you should do it, and you should do it, and only you can do it. And the Rebbe, this is the mission, this is the call of that. Now you have to do it. Yes, you have kindness, and you're trusting. I'm going to do it, and you believe this way, and that. It's good. But this is At the end of the day, the nekuda is, the vart is achrayus, but taking responsibility. Look at us, achrayus for a moment. So my father had this chos for what was it, for 40 years, when he directed sichs in English, and he had many interactions and minus from the Rebbe. There was one story that he had that he would chazer, tell me again and again. I never got all the prat. Only after he passed away, I found all the minus and the back and forth. I understood more of the story, and then I understood why. But the story was so important. Which is two things. Number one, it sort of was maybe one of the stories that defined the mission. What his mission is and the mission of the Moisid. But maybe more than anything, it's this nikud of achrayus, of taking personal responsibility. So first of all, just understand. My father was born Tafshin Yud Zayin. He came to some 70 as a 20-year-old bacher, Tafshin Lamed Zayin. Tafshin Lamed Ches, he directing sichs in English. He was a 21-year-old bacher. He was a 21-year-old bacher. He started before his birthday. He was 20.
Zaidi Afson was already 100 years old. So he was already elder with the Tatas Yard. He was never 21.
I heard if I come to New Haven, I have to make sure to mention Zaidi Afton many times. Everyone heard it already from Gershi.
21 years old.
Okay, you're saying that's talking about. That's the
Broad places,
right? But that's taking away from the Nikud I'm trying to bring out. The Nikud is a young bacher, and who's he running it with? Also a bunch of bachrim himself. But that's it. He's running it, and the Rebbe you're good. It's your achrayus. Ad kedei kach that a year later, this is Lamed Tes. So Valafat Sichos was printing for the first time. They were printing Likutei Sichos in English. So they had Emmanuel Shachat, which was basically the Lubavitch translator. Who was translating at the time? That was Emmanuel Shachat, Salman Posner, ניסן Mendel. Yeah, these were the 3-4 chevra. And Valafat Sichos was the official Moisid that was publishing the Rebbe Sichos. They were the ones publishing Likutei Sichos already for many years, and they were in it for a while. So they prepared. They had the book ready. The first chelik, just Parshas Breishis. In other words, chelik Aleph Likutei Sichos is Breishis, Shmois, and Lech. Breishis, Shmois, and Vayikra. And this was just the Chumash Breishis. So they given the book to the Rebbe, they were pushed. They printed many volumes of Likutei Sichos already in the original in Yiddish, and now they're giving the Rebbe the book in English. The Rebbe sends an answer to Valafat Sichos. It's shaykh to Sichos in English. Why? You have to speak to them. What are you doing? Well, my father, it was a Friday afternoon, and my father's had a long fabring the night before, and he's getting up, going on Miftzah, and he gets a call from Label, and Label tells him the Rebbe wants an answer from you right now about what's the situation with Likutei Sichos, and the Rebbe would go home a little before Shabbos and come back. The Rebbe's not going home until you give an answer. My father, rubbing his eyes, he's had a fabring, a little shishi. They have to give an answer about what? Where? What Likutei? They didn't know Likutei Sichos. When's the Likutei Sichos? We're doing some unofficial hanachas of the fabring and Talmidim. We didn't even know. The guys didn't even know English yet. They're really making hanachas. And you have to sit down with them and that they could print a sefer. It's fine. And what's the word? These are the professionals. These are the guys that are doing it. And these are the guys. You now for a year you took a achrayus to publish my Torah in English. It's now your thing. You're 21-year-old bacher. It's fine. You took a achrayus. It's 9 hours. Fine, that was one prep. But the ikr was about a year later. So it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan Tafshin Mem. Rosh Chodesh Nisan Tafshin Mem was, in retrospect, it was the unofficial launch of Tzivos Hashem. By the Rebbe. So every couple of years was a new mitzvah or a new theme, a new inyan. But while you could say this started Tafshin Chav Zayin, this started Tafshin Lamed Daled, and this started Tafshin Nun and Aleph. But very often it didn't really happen that way. It was like this progression. It would evolve. They would speak about an inyan, then go more into the bit more. And all of a sudden, a year later, all of a sudden you see a whole mitzvah develop from this. So while Tzivos Hashem officially perhaps was launched Chol HaMoed Sukkos Tafshin Mem Aleph by the rally that ever spoke about Tzivos Hashem, Shnas Hakel was the night of Hakel, the second, right in the beginning of Chol HaMoed Sukkos. But a half a year earlier, on Rosh Chodesh Tafshin Mem, there was a fabringen, the night of Rosh Chodesh, lower Rosh Chodesh, and the Rebbe then launched a campaign called the Heishiv Levavis Al Banim. The pasuk says Heishiv Levavis Al Banim, and what's the pshat? Heishiv Levavis Al Yedei Banim. Basically, let's bring the parents back through the kids. We give up on the adults. We will reach the adults is through the kids. Now, this over the next couple months, it was something that developed, and there were many sichos and farbrengens over the next few weeks that everyone was koching in this. That for Pesach, and it reached a stage that for Pesach, there was a massive campaign that was called Matzah Ball Contest. This was before you.
Baby,
Huh?
I know. What? We're talking about the numbers. Talking about.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that.
I'm talking about it. Just saying, saying parent anniversary. You popped up.
So it was multiple contests. Basically, get as many kids as possible, to do missions like that. We grew up with Tzivus Hashem. It was before Shimi Weinbaum took it over. So the missions for kids for Tzivus Hashem, what were the missions we had? Light Shabbos candles, and if you're a boy, remind your sister to light Shabbos candles. Did you hear Shofar and Rosh Hashanah? It was all Klal Yisrael v'Vasachas. Everyone has the same missions. Like you were a yarmulke today. These were the missions. A matzah ball contest. Then a few months later, for Shavuos, all the kids should come to Aseret Dibros. That's when it started. Now we know it's Davar Pasha. All kids come to Aseret Dibros. It started then Tafshin Mem. And the next few months there were many rallies. And campaigns for kids and raffles. There was one of the Farbrengens. The Rebbe said there'll be a few rallies like Chodesh Av, and we have to make raffles. It's like not like from JJ. It's like the Rebbe announced there'll be raffles, and the way to do the raffle is you have to give in a mission that you added in Torah, avoiding the most sudden for adults. Give tzedakah. What is it for kids? Get a new friend. Like the Rebbe was speaking to kids on their level, and ultimately this a few months later turned into Tzivus Hashem. So by night there was a Farbrengen. And the Rebbe said they should make a rally, like a few rallies before Pesach. So the next day they made a rally. They didn't think a rally is that the kids will have a rally. Not that the Rebbe is going to be part of this rally. So they arranged a rally, but right before Mincha, right after Mincha for the kids. All of a sudden, a few minutes before the rally, the Rebbe is coming to the rally. Completely unexpected. And the Rebbe spoke by that rally, and the Rebbe made another rally, and the Rebbe had another few sichos before Pesach. Right after this Farbrengens, it was bringing the night of Rosh Chodesh, and then it was a rally on Rosh Chodesh. The Rebbe then told the Manichim in Yiddish that the Rebbe wants the Sikha prepared ASAP, and the Rebbe wanted Magiyah in Yiddish of the Farbrengen because it's very important everyone should hear of this Farbrengen. So right away they prepared the Sikha, and the Rebbe was Magiyah, the regular Sikha. It's printed in the back of the Sikhas from that Farbrengen. Right after the Farbrengen came out, the Rebbe was Magiyah that Sikha. My father gets a call from Askiris. The Rebbe wants the Sikha translated into English. So in general, when they translate the sichos, they would just translate the Farbrengen. It's an unedited sichos. They would translate in their own way, like a kitzur of the Farbrengen. But this was like, I think, the first time that he got a call from the Rebbe. The Rebbe wants a sicha muge in English, and the Rebbe wants to take the Yiddish muge de sicha and translate it into English. So here they were very, very scared. They weren't used to this. In other words, taking something that was already edited by the Rebbe and translating it to be exact. As well, usually the Rebbe would Farbrengen for a few hours. Let's say a sicha would come out in Yiddish. Hanocha, transfer of the Farbrengen would be 30, 40 pages. In English, it was 20 pages. It was a kitzur. It wasn't every single bit. It was in their own style. But here, the Rebbe is telling them, I take the edited Yiddish sikh and translate it. So they took the sikh and translated it word for word, mamish, literal as it gets. And they gave into the Rebbe a 10 or 11 page sikh, a complete sikh. They gave it, and the Rebbe wanted to edit it right away. They gave it into the Rebbe. A few hours later, the Rebbe sends it out. My father gets the sikha, and so the sikha is returned with edits on the first 2 pages. The Rebbe didn't edit the whole, so the Rebbe edited the first 2 pages with etc. And the Rebbe wrote like this, that when you translate, so hatargum, it's almost midday. Hatargum tzarich liyas chafshi of a noychalik. Basically, the translation should be a free translation, easy to read. I looked at the first 2 pages, and I pointed out a few of the points that need to be fixed. This is not, this is unreadable. It's especially word for word. You can't understand what it's saying here. And bring in a mumche It's a translation.
The old red on Sino Gemara said,
Yeah.
"Thy shall do."
The Birnbaum.
Trying to figure out what the pshat is.
That was a whole nother issue. In Tashma, I think that was already out of the dictionary, but there were other issues. And basically bring in a mumche in the translation and give me the next product. Give me an updated product. Now, when you work for the Rebbe on that level, where you're working in the Sikhs and work directly under the Rebbe there, people that work, you got these, the Rebbe was a very, very tough boss in that department. I'll get that in a second. That was a very, very tough boss. But my father and his friends, there were a bunch of Bachrim, and then he was 22, 23. It was like, first time they got such a mind, it was like so scary. Tough Shemem. And didn't know what to do. So, and the Rebbe's unhappy with this. And Imam, the Rebbe edits the first 2 pages, stops in mid-sentence. I'm not editing the Sikh. I'm just showing you where you guys went wrong. Okay, so what do we do here? So they called up all the mumchim. They're not the mumchim, they're a bunch of bachrim. Called up all the mumchim, and they have to find someone else to write this up and what to do. And there's a whole asife and Lepoyo. They got, I don't even know who Lepoyo wrote it up. It was complete. They figured the Rebbe doesn't translate the Sikh. It's not what the Rebbe wants. The Rebbe wants it to be rewritten for an American crowd in English language. Fine, so someone else wrote it up from outside the Moisid, and now they gave into the Rebbe a new product. It was completely redone product. Instead of 10 pages, it's 5 pages, an essay based off the Farbrengen. It wasn't written up like a Farbrengen, a few Sikhs. It was a new essay. Gives it into the Rebbe. And right there, boy b'yoyim, he gets a call. He gets a call from Askiris.
Where's the rest of it?
So he gets a call from Askiris. It's better. It's better. To go from Askiris, what's going on? This is not the Sikha. How do you get to this? And says, the Rebbe said that he was unhappy with that. So there was a decision. There was a decision to do. We understood from the Rebbe it should be done differently. Who understood this way? Who made this decision? The board, the Moises. Who? So he tells. So given a list. So he tells. So he says, okay, I'll get back. Calls back. He says the Rebbe wants a list. Who made this decision? Who took achrayus on this decision to change the Sikh? Again, he's a buck. What's this making me? There's some ultimatums, and you have to make this. And you have to give a list. They sit down. Who's taking achrayus for this? No one's ready to take achrayus, obviously. So my father, I'm saying it's not really b'shivchay, but you always say the story because they say the vart. So he gives into the Rebbe a list of 9 or 10 people that basically he put the whole moister on it: the translators, the writer, the typesetter, the janitor, and if you have to take blame, let's divide the blame. Everyone take a little bit, so we'll get out of this. But Rebbe's not going to excommunicate 10 people. Yeah, fine. He sends in the list. He gets back the Sikha. The Rebbe edits the entire Sikha, all the 5 pages.
The second one,
The second one, yeah. Edits the 5 pages with tons of edits, so like a Mugadik Sikha. And on the front page, the Rebbe writes, here, I take the Sikha. He got the Sikha Beis Pa'amim. It's in English, yeah. Yeah. The Rebbe would edit from time to time. The Rebbe would edit the Sikhs in English, or besides for the Yiddish, and the Rebbe would edit the Sikhs in English as well.
The corrections would be in English.
Some corrections in English, it depends. Certain corrections were write it differently or different word to fix a word. Certain corrections were the Rebbe wanted to bring in a certain context or at a certain point, and that very often the Rebbe would write in Hebrew, and now you guys figure out how to put it into the flow. But sometimes the Rebbe would write full lines in English, so there would be a lot of English writing. And the Rebbe, so on the cover page, the Rebbe wrote, I edited the Sikha twice, and then in parentheses, Im lezeh yikare haga, if you can even call this editing. I'm not editing this anymore. Take it and print it. In other words, I'm unhappy with this, but now on the list of people that my father sent into the Rebbe, it's circled, a simon of all these people, and the Rebbe wrote like this. And the Rebbe wrote, the kulam. This is fascinating. All these people, hishmitu hamari mekoimus. They all took out the Mari Mekoimus, right? The original Sikha was a full Sikha with sources, all the sources, because it was written as an essay. So they took out the sources. The sifim was divided into 7-8 sifim. They took out the chapter. It's one long essay. Ve'oid kulam kivnu la'oisam hashinoyim. All these people all came up with the exact same changes. They all decided to change it differently. Now, while the Rebbe was writing this, in other words, it was with like a bunch of underlines and exclamation points in the Rebbe style, and the Rebbe finishes off, Hanes de Ziknei Talmud.
I'm going to say it sounds like a Talmud Melech.
Hanes de Ziknei Talmud. Mamash Hanes de Ziknei Talmud. They put in, right, the Talmud Melech asked 70 Skanim to translate it. They all come up with the same, unbelievable. All you guys came up with the same changes, the same differences. Now, the word is on its own, but the MS is that many times the Rebbe would use Lashonis and Igris and Minus at certain stages. A lot of times the Rebbe was referring, at least, Remes, the things that they were discussing at the time. 2 months earlier, this was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. 2 months earlier, Rosh Chodesh Shvat, Tafshin Mem was Shabbos, Parshas Ve'era, and a big part of Farbrengen, the Rebbe basically discussed the musig of translating Torah. Rosh Chodesh Shvat is the day that I would speak about often about translating, because that's the avodah of the day. Because Rosh Chodesh Shvat in Parshas Dvarim it says that on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, the last Rosh Chodesh Shvat of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, the Ashti Yasser Chodesh Be'echad LaChodesh Hoyel Moshe Be'er Torah Zay Shleiman. Moshe started explaining what's explaining the Torah. Tirgim L'Shivim Lashon. He translated the Torah. Right, a month before he passed away, Moshe translated the Torah into 70 languages. And that spoke about it many times. Like this Farbrengen, they spoke about it by Riches. What's the point of translating Torah? And they spoke about the idea of translating Torah. 2 sichos and Likutei Sichos come from this sicha. The first sicha Chelek Chav Daled, and the sicha Chelek Lamed Vav, or Chodesh Shvat, and the Rebbe speaks by Riches about translating Torah. And one of the points that the Rebbe spoke about by Riches is, there's a fascinating Chazal. Chazal say that the day that they translated the Torah into Greek, Kasha Yisrael ki yoyim shenasa bo ha'egel. It was such a tough day for Klal Yisrael. It's like the day that the egel was made. And the obvious question is, Moshe translates the Torah. That's one of the last things he did was the Val Gazach. We translate Torah. I'm saying, think today. Imagine if Torah wasn't translated. Imagine, just think about how many millions of Yidden and are learning Torah and how much Limud Torah was brought to this world because of the translation of Torah in the last 50 years. 100 years, and the day that they translated Torah is Kasha Kiyem Shenasa Bo Yegel. How can that be? Or to speak about the day that they translated the Ziknei Talmud, translated the Torah, it was like the day Shenasa Bo Yegel. And it was a whole arich. The point that Rebbe said is, it doesn't say that it was the day that they served the Egel. It's Kasha Kiyem Shenasa Bo Yegel. The Egel was made a day before they served. They served the Egel the next day, right? Aaron said, "Let's make an Egel." And what did he say? Chag Lashem Machar. Tomorrow we'll celebrate. Why did he do it? He made the Egel sort of to push them off. And he hoped that Moshe Rabbeinu would come by the next day. And that way, everything will be fine. And then the Egel will be used in the service of Hashem somehow, etc., etc. So what's the Yem Shnasa B'Yeh Egel? Yem Shnasa B'Yeh Egel is sort of it's a risk. In other words, this could be, he's doing something good. He's trying to push them off, and this could be used in some positive sense. But ultimately, the next day, it fell through, and the Egel, that became the biggest calamity for Klal Yisrael, that all tzaras that we go through and all the averos that we do, for all deiris, it all comes from Chet Egel. And Chet Egel, we're suffering from it till today. So, Yom Shnas Egel, so basically the point is, when you translate Torah, you're on a cliff. It's sort of this like twilight zone. It's a very, very dangerous thing. On the one hand, translating Torah, you could bring Torah to the masses. On the other hand, you translate Torah, you can mess it up. When you translate it, you take away the truth of Torah, you take away the depth. Who knows what could happen with it? So it's a very dangerous thing. So in other words, Ziknei Talmud, so when like we got the mind, it was almost like, you guys are mamish falling in. You have to be very, very careful. Ziknei Talmud, you're translating Torah. In order to the end of this, like, what heck did the Rebbe want then? The Rebbe didn't want the first versions. What's the problem with the second version? Right? There was obviously this balance that Rebbe was looking for, and this was sort of the Vart. You can't translate word for word. Atem, it doesn't work that way. You don't understand what it's saying. On the other hand, I'm giving you a sikha. Translate the sikha. Don't write something else. Translate the sikha into English. Right? That was the Vart. But the Nekuda here was, in other words, what are you doing? This guy split the blame. 9 people, 10 people. Vernem tachrayis. Ziknei Talmud. Today we could definitely say on collectively we're all in this Ziknei Talmud, and we all didn't figure it out. We all came up with the same mistakes, right? Except we came up with the same mistakes, we didn't figure it out. At the same time, right, I think the Rebbe would definitely and does definitely acknowledge and and it's what has been done the last 30 years. We've done unbelievable. Every single one of us, Chabad collectively, and Yiddish Welt. But the same time, there's a nekuda of it's take personal responsibility. L'chaim. It's even more. It felt like it wasn't even in Lubavitch till he showed up.
You learned from Tells. Huh? Tells it? Tells is what is it? I think no. Europe. What's Europe? Tells. Tells. It's Tells in Chicago. The father wasn't Tells. It wasn't that. It's the French Tells. Just in Chicago. It's in Chicago. I think then he was 1 year in Florida. Yeah. But man,
He came on Mitzay. No. It was not from Mishpacha. They learned in Tells from whatever, for other reasons. They lived in Detroit. No,
the oldest one, 70. Other ones weren't let it.
Wasn't him 70. He was in Montreal, and he was he went to enough places to make sure no one else was accepted. No, it was a big deal. There was a sikha, there was a break the night before, and a rally that day. You don't usually have it on the same day to. Huh? How do I move the phone when I'm eating? I don't watch my eating habits. So Harry, when he went to the bathroom, I wanted to see.
Supper.
What's your name?
Smolly
I think your last name is opposite.
Smolly.
Are you a Bashkir somewhere?
Sem.
Okay.
No, Mashpia Sem doesn't really mean that much. Anyone that comes to Shul can call themselves Mashpia Sem.
Muslims don't actually call themselves that.
Right, that's true.
Self-flagellation is not accepted.
Yeah. Basically, I get a salary to come and talk to people in the 70. Sounds like, Yeah. So my father came later. Obviously, I'm saying they were still alone. My father, as a child, so they lived in Detroit. They would come in. So the mishpacha would come in every Simchas Torah. A few times a year, they would come in by train. Would come to Crown Heights. And then there'd be a family yechidus. So one of the yechidus, my father was like 5 years old. My Zayda Baruch Hashem got married at 36 and had 15 kids.
Yeah. Wow. Seriously? Yeah. He was in jail. Every year on the year.
Yeah, there's many stories. It's also nice. Basically, my brother came here, so she came to the States with 6 kids. There's a picture. They come off the plane. Your mother, the youngest, she was the baby. Youngest baby. Yeah, she was born where in Paris.
Frenchie.
Yeah, Frenchie. Yeah. And they came. There was a picture. It was in the forward. There was in a few papers. The picture from a family coming off the plane with 6 kids. And then I think the first pregnancy, so she had a miscarriage, and it was a very tough situation. Basically, the doctor said that the trauma she went through, the kind of life she went through, her body can't handle anymore. She can't have any more kids. She shouldn't dare go into another pregnancy. Oh, actually, she had a miscarriage, and then if I understand correctly, she went to become pregnant again. And the doctor said that to abort the child, and you can't have any more kids. It's not going to happen. So understand the life she went through. Obviously, anyone that went through Russia and in World War II, she was in Leningrad during the siege, and she lost her mother in the siege of 1942. And then her and her 2 sisters, there were 3 sisters, ran away with their father, running through the countryside, running through the woods during the war. And the father passed away in the woods, and she was being the oldest. girl, the 16-year-old girl, she buried her father on the side of the road, wherever it was. Years later, there's no way of figuring out where he was buried. And then somehow, only Chassidim in Russia were able to figure this out. Then the word got out there that there's 3 sisters lost in the woods without parents. You have to find them and take them, in order to take care of them. This is in Russia, 1942, during World War II, the escape from the Leningrad siege. And I think that's when they stayed by Fetter Yena. And that's Yena Khan Yena Poltaver. He basically took care of them for the next few years. That's my father got his name after, and a few other cousins. So you can imagine that she went through this and the kind of life she went through. And basically, she can't have any more kids. So her and my Zayda basically came to Yechidus, and my Baba started crying and said, "This is why I left Russia, to find out that now I can't have any more kids. 6 kids isn't enough. Yeah, this is what I left." And the Rebbe said, "You'll have more kids than you had till now. In other words, more than double." So 15. Anyway, so coming to Yechidus, and this stage, my father was about 5 years old. My father's the sandwich was in the middle, so probably there were 8 kids, 9, he was the 8th, 10, 11 kids. And my father was cross-eyed. He went through a few operations, and we always need bifocals. So anyways, he's going into the Rebbe's room, he's crossing the threshold. He was a bit spaced out, he couldn't really see, and he trips. My Baba and Zayd already inside Yechidus. Mom is standing in front of the Rebbe's desk, and almost the whole family is in. And there's a little kid, all confused, just fell face down on the floor in the Rebbe's room and screaming, and everyone's frozen. Like, what are you going to do? You don't know what to do. It was like such a shock. And my Baba and Zayd are right in front of the Rebbe, and it was like a few moments that no one knew what to do. And the Rebbe got up. The Rebbe stood up, went to the door, picked up my father, brought him to this place, the Rebbe sat my father on Rebbe's lap, and he was there the entire Yechidus. So, you heard from him, yeah? Al Virkei Yosef. Father always told me, I was whenever everything, it's a different matzav and everything going on. The Rebbe held me on his lap. It was that koyach. Anyway, back to Chavches ניסן. It's very interesting. You look at the Sikha. Imamish doesn't. At the end of the Sikha, you see what the Rebbe is saying. It's very, very hard to understand. It's a Bechlaw, when the Rebbe is saying, Haytach and Mashiach didn't come yet. When you look at the Sikha, when the Rebbe says it, you can understand in a few ways. When the Rebbe was Magia the Sikha, the Rebbe says like this, it's the last Sif, that after 5 Sifim, the Rebbe explains the time that we're in, and we're such as man Mesugel for Mashiach because of the month and the year and the date, Chav Zayin, Chav Ches. How could it be that after all that, we didn't bring Mashiach? It's totally not understood. Utmiya Nisefes, an additional, something else that's not understood, that 10 Yidden or many or dozens of Yidden come together at such a Zman Zakai for the Gola, and no one's making a shturim for Mashiach to come. And it's not mufrach, it's not upgefrekt. Tell them Mashiach's not coming tomorrow or the next day or not coming tonight. Or they can live with it. It doesn't bother them that Mashiach's not coming tonight or tomorrow, or even in 2 days Mashiach doesn't come. And even when they scream Ad Masai, it's because they're commanded, because they're told to scream Ad Masai. But if they would scream Ad Masai with an emes, and they would ask Ad Masai with an emes, Zichir Mashiach would come. And then the Rebbe said like this: what else can I do that all Yidden should scream and make a shturim with the emes to bring the Geula, after all that I did till now didn't help? The proof for that is we're still in Galus, and more importantly, we're still in a Galus Pnimi in Avodas Hashem. I mean, when the Rebbe is saying that all I did till now didn't help, so the Rebbe says in the Sikha, what did I do till now didn't help? All I did until now to get you to care about Mashiach. All I did until now to get everyone to scream at Muslim and Emes didn't work. And the proof is that we're still in Galus. If you would have done it, Mashiach would have come. And even more importantly, or a bigger proof perhaps, is if you would care about Ad Masai, you would care about Mashiach, you would get out of your Galus Pnimi. You wouldn't be living in your ever changed to Hayo. Right. I mentioned that. Right. It's sort of toned down. Also, when the Rebbe said it, you can understand that the Rebbe saying that all I did till now to bring Mashiach didn't work. But the way the Rebbe edited it, the Rebbe wrote, The way it says it is that all I did to get you to care about Mashiach didn't help. And the proof is that we're still in Golos and that you're in Golos Pnimi. So what's the solution? So everybody's saying, here's the issue. For the last 40 years, I'm trying to care about Mashiach. Definitely the last 10 years, when the Rebbe started storming Tafshanem and Aleph and Beis about Ad Masai, how many sikhs ever said to scream Ad Masai and sing Ad Masai. It didn't, even if you're doing it, because I said to say Ad Masai, so you're saying Ad Masai. Right after the sikh, everyone starts saying Ad Masai. Right? And Zalman Grari, the Rebbe tells him right afterwards, the Rebbe says, Le'naga v'lei paga. It's like when you think about it, how's it even say after hearing such a sikh, everyone starts screaming Ad Masai at the same time. But again, we're looking at it 20 years later, 30 years later. At the time, we're just like, what are you going to do? What are you going to scream? You scream Ad Masai. They just said, don't scream Ad Masai. I have to scream Ad Masai. Whatever. But it's the state they were in. So what's the solution? So the solution is, I'm giving it over to you. Do all you can to bring Mashiach with Pe'el Mamash. Basically, I'm trying to get you to care about Mashiach. No one cares. The solution is, I'm giving it to you. What does that mean? Right. So So Elon Musk buys Twitter. Right. Now,
Done deal already?
he didn't buy it. It's not done there. Agreed. But that's a muscle. That's something. It's irrelevant if it happened or not, right? The Indian.
And that's up to date in the 80s. Yeah.
It's emotional. We don't care.
Okay.
Happy with it.
Nothing sophisticated about Twitter's stock options.
Right now, some people are happy with it. Some people aren't. So there's people that work, they're in the business that are unhappy with it. And they don't buy into, he has a vision, he believes in free speech, they don't believe, at least in his version of it, they don't believe. So now he's trying to think, okay, so he has to make a new board of directors if he wants, and the top employees, people are going to run it. So who does he choose? So certain people are at the bottom of the line, they just have to do the technical work. You can have any yokel doing that. Even if you don't like me and you don't buy into my vision, I could give you that job. But to put people at the top, people are actually going to be running it, and all the different directors and the COOs and all these different chevra, you put people that buy in. People that don't buy into your vision, you don't put them there because they're not going to get it. The Rebbe is saying like this. The Rebbe is coming with a time. For a bunch of years, I'm trying to get you to buy into Mashiach. That's what the Rebbe is all about. Day one, Basi Lagani, it's to bring the Gula, not only from Basi Lagani. The Rebbe writes that from when I was a little child, from when I went to Cheder and even earlier, what does even earlier mean? I went to Cheder at 3, earlier at 2. The Rebbe is dreaming at 2 years old. That's the Rebbe's life, right? Bring him Mashiach. And this is what the Rebbe is trying to get the whole Klal Yisrael to buy in. Tafshin Nun Aleph, the Rebbe is 90. The Rebbe just had his 89th birthday, Shnas HaTishim, and it's all coming together. And a year earlier, Tafshin Nun, the entire year, the Rebbe was kaching in Arboim Shana Kohen Shait, the Rebbe for 40 years. Everyone's able to get what the Rebbe is all about and what the Rebbe is teaching. So everyone should get it by now. It's 40 years. And then the Rebbe comes and says, but you might have gotten this, that, but you didn't get the main point. The main point is that you should care about Mashiach. Mashiach should be real to you. It's not. Okay, so what's my solution? My solution is, here, you own it and you run the company. What's it? You're giving ownership to people that don't buy in. But what kind of solution is that? If no one bought in, so you have to find somebody else, right? The Eibush there, when he saw that it didn't work out, that the human race was a mistake, right? Yetzer Leva Adam Rami Nourav, the people are inherently evil, and Rak Kolayim, so destroy them and get new people, make a new nation, right? After what was it? After by Chet Egel tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm done with these guys. Let me make a new nation from Moshe Rabbeinu. You create the new nation because these guys didn't work out. Here, the Rebbe says 40 years, you guys didn't get it. So I tried this, I tried that, nothing worked. So what's my solution? My solution is you take achrayis to bring Mashiach. But why? But the guy's not taking achrayis because he doesn't care. If you don't care about Mashiach, how can you take achrayis for something you don't care about? Did you ever give someone a job for something they don't care about? What don't you care about? That here, so you run it. They'll drop the ball. So what's happening? So what kind of solution is that? And the way you'll say that's maybe the reason why we're still in goals. You're giving the job to people that don't care. The Rebbe says I did all I can to get you to care about Mashiach and ask for Mashiach with an M. It means that it should be something it should bother you. Mashiach's not here. That goal is something real to you, and if Mashiach's not here, there's something missing in your life. Is Mashiach nice? Yeah, we'll sing about Mashiach. We'll do polis. We'll put Mashiach on our song. Whatever, you can do anything. But do I care? Does it bother me that I'm Golos? I'm comfortable. Chab 11, have a wife and kids and a parnasa and whatever. There's nothing that bother me. Mashiach doesn't really bother me. Fine. Okay, so I'm trying to do all I can to get you to Kir Mashiach. Nothing worked. So what's the solution to get you to Kir? The solution is to make you achroi on it, give you the responsibility. And then what? But I don't care. Oh, so that's the word. Basically what the Rebbe is saying is, it's very interesting the way the Rebbe says it. I tried everything else, meaning I didn't want, in other words, the Rebbe didn't, you could say it this way, we shouldn't have gotten to this step, meaning to give people ownership on Mashiach, it's a scary thing. What are you giving regular, every yokel, every yankel and beryl and shmerel is going to own Mashiach? Giving people responsibility on their own lives is something massive. Who's ready to take responsibility on their own chaim, gashmim and ruchnim? We all try to delegate, to abnegate, right? Just give it over to somebody else. We try to let someone else take achrayus on us, or something like that. But here, the Rebbe is taking the mission of the purpose of creation, the mission of the entire world, the mission of Klal Yisrael, and saying, I'm giving it over to every pash. It's not special yidden and hecher yidden. You'll get the gula. And the Rebbe says, I did it till now. The truth is, the Sikh of Chavkas Nissen, really, the Rebbe said a Sikh very, very similarly a few years before. It's not said with that kind of maybe passion and direct that I'm giving it to you. But in Purim, Tavshim Zayin, the last Purim Febrengen, the Rebbe Febrenged, the Rebbe says that they're Febrengen. Why didn't we get the message then? I guess it was a Purim Febrengen, it was part of Febrengen, was a different mode. It wasn't with that kind of electric energy. But the Rebbe there says, and there the Rebbe says very clearly that until now, or until it says that kufa, until not too long ago, it was the mission of the Nasi to bring Mashiach. So every Yid has their avodah, and we all bring our avodah to the Nasi. And the Nasi is the one that actually brings Mashiach. That's the Rebbe turf. That's his turf. That's his mission. His job is to bring Mashiach. And we have to do all our part, under that umbrella. But he's the one that brings Mashiach. And the Rebbe said now something changed, that the Rebbe now, from the Nasi, it went from the Nasi HaKoil to the HaKoil. From the Nasi, it went to the people. It went to the masses. And the Rebbe is saying, yeah, it was the Rebbe's mission. But now I'm giving it to every single person. The Rebbe says, how am I doing that? The Rebbe says, because there is no other way. Because it seems that as long as we see Mashiach as the Rebbe's job, as committed as we'll be, we can't really care. With all that Masay Sichas and with all the Rebbe's Shturim and all the Rebbe doing for 40 years, we'll buy in, we'll do Mitzvah Tefillin, we'll do Shlichus, we'll do stuck, we'll learn, we'll do all the things. But Mashiach is the Rebbe's thing. So so he'll take care of, he'll do it. The Rebbe says, okay, so the only way is, I'll give you the Balabatishkeit. And when you get the Balabatishkeit, all of a sudden, that's what will make you care. In other words, the solution to not caring is to own it. Own it, and then you start caring. It's a Yid that never learned about Mashiach, doesn't even know what Mashiach is. But that's the Vart. The Vart is the betzim. Every single Yid has an Itzit Mashiach. Every single Yid gloibt the Mashiach. Every single Yid, Mashiach is at the front burner. It's who he is. We don't tap into it. So the Rebbe's model of Chavkas Nissen, how do you tap into your Itzit Mashiach? You tap into it by achrayus. By recognizing that the fate of the world, that you as an individual, you Pasha can take achrayus on what Klal Yisrael, the entire world, is waiting for 5,782 years. It's up to you. It's your thing. So someone will come and say, so this model, it's actually a soy. Because sometimes we say, a Bachar young man. It's like, sometimes we're for bringing, and we say, okay, let's get involved. Yeah, so I'm for bringing and learning and davening and stuck it. Everyone in their Indian. And it's like, I'm not there. I'm not motivated. I don't feel it. So everyone says, forget it. You're not interested? The solution is to do it. Not just do it as in, there's doing it, so in Achara Mais in the Shach Malavavis, in the Lashon of the Chinuch, you just do it, your passion will grow. Don't just do it. Take ownership, take achrayus. Today, achrayus, that's the solution. You're not motivated? Okay, that's fine. Don't try to motivate yourself. Own it. How can I own on something that I don't care about? You give me a company that I have no interest in? Yeah, take it. And somehow, when you become balabas, all of a sudden, things that yesterday meant nothing to you mean so much to you. He never says, take it. Own Mashiach, own a shear, own this Paula. Be every single yid. Be a balabas. We're done with employees. Every yid is a balabas, a balasek. That was what the difference between a balasek and a pakid, a clerk, an employee and employer. Employer, you can't sleep. It's on your mind 24 hours a day. This is your thing. Take achrayus. What? Well, he fainted. He did all you. Bob Rebbe, right? After the Rebbe tried to make a shinoi there with the melucha, with there were different laws that were being passed against chinuch of Yidden, and Rebbe tried his best and it didn't work, and he fainted. So the Chaim Brisker told him, Bob Rebbe, you tried all you can. What do you like? Why are you taking it so personal? And the point is, yeah, if I have a 9-to-5 job, I do it. It worked. It didn't work. But it's mine. It's personal. It's my thing. That's an akudah. Take achrayus. So I try to motivate people, get people excited, make an emotional event. That's nice. But the derech today is, don't wait for all that. Take achrayus. Who you give achrayus? Give the achrayus to anybody. The Rebbe would write this even to kids. Right? The teachers would write to the Rebbe, or parents write to the Rebbe. A hyperactive kid, the kid's not interested in school, doesn't learn it, and he doesn't do anything. What do I do? I want to kick the kid out of school. What do I do? How do I deal with this kid? What's the Rebbe's solution? Give him achrayus on something going on in school. Make him the leader of a group. A leader of a group. The kid's a bully of the class. I make him a leader of the group. But that's the vart. He's bored. He doesn't feel that he owns anything. Machim afar balabas. Chaim.
I don't know.
I'm not no. Good committee. Yada da yada da yada da. Obviously, can't be in.
Birthday party.
Yes, next door.
Birthday party.
Yes,
Multiple birthday.
so Yaina Khan was my father's great uncle, my Bubba's uncle. Which he took care of my Bubba then. That's where my father got he didn't have any kids. That's where my father was named after him. Bubby was Karasik.
So this is Jamie Khan's Karasik?
No, I think he was married to Abolskoy, yeah? Yeah, so she was a Karasik, her mother was Abolskoy. And I think Yaina Khan's wife was Abolskoy. Yaina Matasov, my father's cousin, his mother's a Karasik. They're both named after Yaina from Madison, Wisconsin.
It seems like the Rebbe's bothered us so much with the fact that it's such a high massive and we're still stuck in an average Golos
Pnimi.
Grow up already.
I don't know New Haven, so I'm not here.
The New Haven.
You guys could translate it into New Haven language. I'm preaching from the rooftops. I'm saying what they say in some 70s. Translate into New Haven.
How does it go on?
That's amazing. The V'oid V'ikir goes Pnimi. In other words, more than the fact that we didn't leave Golos is that we didn't leave Golos Pnimi. It's the V'oid V'ikir. It's a bigger.
Inside. We're still stuck in the Pampers.
Fine.
The passage is maybe going to take the lead.
So what is this thing with the Snickers cover? Say something about it out loud. Now they have the Revan.
Imagine every person. Imagine every person in the Kehillah took a chrayas for one thing. But took a chrayas.
50 shills over here.
But
Getting there.
My wife's from Buffalo, so I was there. So Buffalo, Bechlal, is a very interesting city. That there's more politics than there are Lubavitchers. Whatever, it's like, and there's more souls. There's more souls that.
His family is from. You can say it.
Huh?
You're saying it relatively. You can say which side.
My relatives are very pious. They're very pious. They're against everybody. You know, equal opportunity offender. They're I think they get along with everybody. Last I checked, but knowing Buffalo, every year new stuff happened there. There's more souls than there's Yidden. It's like the Gore is your family, yeah.
Yeah.
He's my shwager. I'm married to a unit, yeah. So anyway, so I was not in Shul there, and the local Aish had a chapter there in Buffalo, University of Buffalo, UB. Two very geschmacka chevra. They were there. They came for 2 years, did their thing. So one of them, his name was Teller, Chanoch Teller, the storyteller, his son. So he said, "Oh, buddies." See, so one day he tells me, he's like, I don't want to mix into internal Chabad stuff. Obviously, he himself is having his stuff with the local shliach there in the university. But that's normal. That's mikubel. He's like, I know, the whole Babcha Kehillah here. Each guy on their own, individually, it's amazing. Like each guy, tzaddik, gavaldik, such nice guys. But tulip Babchas together, like, what's up with you people? Like, why can't it's like a minion splits, and then the split minion splits with another minion. They have that here, yeah. It's already split minion. I'll go to Zach, and it's a healthy killer. So I think, what can I tell him? So Baruch Hashem, they geholfen. I said, look, I don't understand. You have a few friends here, you few guys. How do you see yourself? You all see yourself as pawns over here, part of the Kehillah, part of doing your thing. Because every Lubavitcher here, the Rebbe told him personally, it's his mission to. It's that each guy here is conquering the world. Anything less than world domination doesn't work for these people. Yeah, each guy here. Imagine you have 50 people here. You have 50 Putins here. You know what I'm saying? You have 50. Each guy here runs the world. He's like, oh, I get it. I understand. The whole. Not that it's right. That's when you think, right? Rabbi Shua ben Levi. So he met Eliyahu Hanavi, right? So this is the story. And right, he went on a trip, and he saw a lot of very interesting things. He saw many interesting things. So one of the things is that he came to an era of Shekula Tzadikim, a city of Tzadikim, and Eliyahu gave them a bracha. They should have one manig. Yeah, and he went to Ir Shekula Rishoim. They should all be manhigim. Together with many other things. Yeah, well, it's right. It's from Machanayim books. Where do I know this from?
Arab members, but wait. No.
Where do we know it from? I don't know. We know it from
First sources were Arab sources, but it ended up in like the.
But it's word Shlomo ben Levi, yeah.
Brought down by the
Where?
Arabs, but it
Where's the brought? Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a good story.
It's a good story. It's a good story. Right? And what was it? And he stayed over by someone to give him a tzarchim, and he gave him a bracha, and he said that the cow should die. Right? There's many, and it was completely. The Eliyahu took him on a tour. But told him you can't ask any questions. Once you ask any questions, it finishes. But finally, he couldn't hold himself anymore. He says, "I can't understand what's going on here. Explain to me all these crazy things that I just saw." So he says, "The Ir Shekula Tzadikim." Why did I say one manik? Okay, so one manik. It's a functional. The Ir, you couldn't understand. Ir Shekula Rishon. They should all be leaders. Why do they get that bracha? They're Rishonim. He said, "For care, think about a city that they're all leaders. It's complete dysfunction." Somehow, Chavches ניסן, the Rebbe says everybody should be a leader,
And you should get along.
and you should get along, and That's the oiris to tell you the kelim the tikkun. Because the moment you tell everyone, who's telling us every single year, imagine every single year, no matter what age, gender, personality, position, every single guy, every person is bringing Mashiach, and yet became the tikkun. Oiris to tell you. What's ours to you? I'm the one I'm gonna do it. I'll be the one bringing Mashiach. Ein svei drai. At the same time, come together, be a shakulam manhigim, kulam tzadikim, and everyone's a rush. And at the same time, get it going. You know, get it together. Have it. I think somehow. I think in the bigger picture, there's bumps, but I think in the bigger picture, Simcha is conquering the world. It's happening, and we're doing it together. We're doing it together, huh? Is what the mission?
Conquering the world.
He's saying everything will have a lyric of Mashiach's not here. That's what he's saying.
Or even when you want.
We get the entire world. The entire world is only course that's Mashiach. What's Mashiach?
Mashiach. I'm talking about the job. Is it put on tefillin, or is it
I'm saying it could be tefillin. The vart isn't tefillin. That's what the Rebbe is saying. We're saying every other mitzvah, the Rebbe came and said, put on tefillin, mezuzah, tzedakah. Here, what did the Rebbe say? Come together and figure out vasuton and vitzuton, what to do and how to do. I said, we should figure it out because we're the elders of Zion. We'll sit together and we'll figure out how to conquer the world. What's the Nekuda is come together, be metakas eitza. It's a bitui, it's a prat in taking ownership. The difference between someone that takes ownership and someone doesn't, you don't take ownership, tell me what to do. Right? What should I do? Scream ad Masai? I'll scream ad Masai. Do this mitzvah, do this mitzvah. But the Rebbe is saying with all that, and obviously none of that's negated chas v'shalom. It's the Rebbe's polis and the Rebbe's mitzvahim. But the Rebbe is saying take it to the next level. Don't just do it's beyond the checklist. It's not about the checklist. They're about take ownership. Okay, did I make the Rebbe happy today? Did I do my mitzvah? That's beautiful. It's very nice. But then there's Do you care, or are we doing because the Rebbe wants Mashiach, so we are doing all we can that the Rebbe can bring Mashiach? Or Mashiach, something that means something? The Rebbe for years, especially in the Mems, every Farbrengen, the Rebbe would scream Ad Masi and sing Ad Masi. And it was once by Farbrengen that they sang for an hour and a half straight. I think the video came out like 2-3 years ago. An hour and a half straight, they sang Ad Masi. We want Mashiach. Lag Boimer Tavshim Mem Vav. Actually, after that, Noach Deer came to the Rebbe for a Noach Deer. Noach Deer at the time was a councilman. He was a judge the last few years. He was a judge in the he passed away a year or two by COVID. Yeah, COVID. He then came to the Rebbe. It was right after the Sikha of Purim Tavshim Mem Vav, the Sikha of rights or ills. And he came to the Rebbe to discuss it, and he then asked the Rebbe that the Rebbe should give it out as an essay in English, if the Rebbe could edit an essay in English.
I didn't realize Koch was at that Farbrengen.
Koch was there?
Koch was there.
At Purim?
That Purim. That was the amazing thing, because he was the guy pushing for all this, making his own life.
He himself was Huh?
What's the Farbrengen about?
Rights or ills, about gay rights.
Same gender relationship.
It came out as, now, there's understand, like I said, the Rebbe was Magia. The Sikh that was Magia in English, almost all the Sikhs were, in the first few years, were from Lamed Ches till Mem Aleph, and then the later years from Mem Ches and on. The Rebbe started Magia, the Machne Yisrael, when the Rebbe speaks Machne Yisrael, the Rebbe would Magia that Sikh and other essays. From Tavshim Mem Beis till Tavshim Mem Ches, the Rebbe was Magia one Sikh in English. Rights or ills, Purim Tavshim Mem Vav. There was only Sikha that was Magia, which itself was there was Magia 3-4 times. The Rebbe that's a Sikha that Rebbe completely rewrote. In other words, the way the Rebbe said it by the Farbrengen. Then the Rebbe edited it 4 times, and 2 of that ago is the Rebbe completely changed the pshat of the Sikha and took out complete pages, like X, an entire page, and then wrote in full paragraphs. In order to how the Rebbe wanted presented to because Noach Deer came to the Rebbe, he was working as in City Hall. And he asked the Rebbe to, I don't know if it was in Albany or in Manhattan, but he asked the Rebbe to edit it and give it out. And the Rebbe was Mamash Mashkia, he was in Manhattan, yeah? And the Rebbe, so he came to the Rebbe, so it was Mamash a few days after Lag Boimer. And after that Lag Boimer, so Lag Boimer and Vav, and they sang God Maseh for an hour and a half. So then in the papers they wrote that Lubavitcher Rebbe, he went crazy. And crazy about Mashiach, like, well, what the heck? Like, what is this, hour and a half singing about Mashiach? Like, whoever saw such a thing by. So the Rebbe was speaking about a few things. Noach Deer that was there, and Melech Naiman, the Gerer Askin was there. The Rebbe said, the Rebbe said, there's in the papers Mishraim, there's been crazy about Mashiach. So was it crazy about Mashiach? That by the Farbrengen they sang for an hour and a half straight. So this was in those years in the 80s in the Mem. They were speaking about Ad Masai, and every time, and I'd say many Farbrengens, one Sikha or half a Sikha would be dedicated for 10, 20, 30 minutes Ad Masai. And after that Sikha, everyone would get excited and scream Ad Masai. Because the Rebbe screamed Ad Masai once, he screamed Ad Masai. The Sikha, Chavches ניסן, is after 10 years like that, singing Ad Masai. It's only an hour and a half. You returned.
Why not?
Ah, you went out already.
I'll take the WhatsApp. I can take the picture.
It's sushi? What about the permanent time? Like that happens.
And the same thing happened with Purim. After Purim time, when the Rebbe said that Sikha, Vad Masai, you could see that video as well. Right after, everyone again is just screaming Ad Masai. And you saying why didn't the Olam get it then? Maybe it was because it was longer. In other words, Hasbara and longer and explain. Yeah, Purim Zayin is a lot more Hasbara than. I would assume it was a Purim Farbrengen.
The Rebbe was giving up. Everyone was confused. It felt like the Rebbe was giving up and retiring.
There was giving a beer. There was giving a beer and a nasi akoil, and the difference between a nasi akoil and a nasi. It was explained, and they were connected with Yeshaya ben Allah and not the akoil. It was melubish, and within a Farbrengen, they never spoke about. They never spoke about the Ragat Shaver. They never spoke about changes happening in the world. was a lot going on. Here, it was a 15-minute sikh, 10-minute sikh. The last 3 minutes, and they were shaking the bima and walking off like.
It wasn't expected, right? Wasn't expected.
I'm saying for most wasn't expected. Just the tone. That's what I'm saying. Bichlal and you give a shear or a lot more than what you say is how it's said, and the tone and the style and the presentation. The presentation makes a lot more of an impact than just the words. It's now in retrospect you could say the Purim Zayin is the hasbara, is the haskala perhaps behind Chavches Nissen. Chavches Nissen is when also you watched the entire Purim Farbrengen and you saw those few minutes. So you watch the entire Farbrengen, it's a Farbrengen. Anyway, I was saying also earlier, it came after a build-up of a half a year, the goal forward. There was a lot that built up to the Sikha. The Sikha was like a climax, anti-climax of everything that happened till then. Anyway, what was I just saying before that? Oh, right. So that was the obvious. They were screaming at us and all that, but somehow it was. Right, you have that sikha. There's a sikha of the Rebbe, classic sikha on Iskashros and on Chol of Anasi, Parshas B'Shalach, the three shittis of how Moshe and the Yidden sang the shira. Did Moshe sing and the Yidden just like answer like just one word? Did Shir Hashem? Did he sing and they answered word for word, or did he start singing? They all sang together. And you could say that perhaps like the 10 years leading up was the Rebbe was saying, and it was like responding to the Rebbe. So Ad Masay, okay, we'll scream Ad Masay. It wasn't just like, we'll do the Rebbe a favor. We're stuck. The Rebbe screamed Ad Masay. So automatically the Rebbe screams Ad Masay. So you're by the Rebbe. You see the Rebbe screaming. You care about the Rebbe. It's meaningful. But it was sort of like this like response. It was a response to the Rebbe. And now the Rebbe is saying all that, it's Mipnei Tzivui. Right, which is itself like a big chiddush. Like, what do you mean? That's what a chassid does. The Rebbe is mitzvah. You do what the Rebbe says. That's the problem that we're doing in Pnei Tzivui. When it comes to Mashiach, yeah, because Mashiach is not something that we respond to the Rebbe. Mashiach is the Rebbe saying, "I'm here to make Mashiach your thing." That now you want to bring Mashiach. When you want to bring Mashiach and you care about Mashiach and it bothers you, you'll figure out what to do. Is it tefillin? It could be tefillin. This guy opens a tefillin app. So it's his way of doing it. This guy opens his what the pratim aren't so negay, and the pratim are also b'chol makom l'fiyim yanai. It's the nekuda, that sense of urgency and that sense of ownership. Mashiach is real. Mashiach is meaningful. Mashiach is it's felt me. You can't daven if it doesn't. If somebody does not. If you're not missing. If it's not a chesaron. Mashiach didn't come. It's something that's important to me. Something that I want. Chaim. Sounds something interesting about that sikh at Purim and Vav. It's a very interesting point. When you go through that Goa, it's only getting to pratim, but it's a very negay when you're giving over the Rebbe's words to outside people, the people in the chutzah. So the Rebbe made many changes in the different levels of editing. The Rebbe edited 3-4 times. One of the things the Rebbe did is the Rebbe Pasha took out all references to Torah. And the Rebbe completely changed the pshat of the Sikha from a Torah conversation with Mekoiris and Rambam and in Mishlei and in Teresh Bechsav, in different places. And the Rebbe is saying, I'm going to have a common sense conversation. And then the Rebbe took all that, and at the end the Rebbe wrote, it was from Purim Tavshim Evav, the Rebbe said, the religious aspects of this conversation were discussed in its own Sikha, and you could see the Farbrengen. It's the way that Rebbe wants this coming out to the world. I'm not turning this into a religious conversation. It's not a religious thing. This is a common sense, because this Sikha ultimately was put into congressional record, and Rebbe it was sent out from Mitam Lubavitch to different dignitaries and lawmakers. Rebbe said, I don't want to turn this into a religious thing in the national conversation. This is totally from common sense. The Rebbe used the Rambam from common sense, but not mitzat Torah. They never took out any references to Torah, and the word Torah, a very interesting thing. When you're having a conversation, chutzah, just putting it out there.
This is a unique situation.
Yeah. I'm saying, all right, but sometimes
Very political charge. And look at
that's why.
the world today.
But that's one of the reasons I brought it up. But sometimes, like today, with so much political conversations are happening, and you see people, sometimes they bring in all kinds of religious stuff. And I think one point that I was trying to bring out is be very careful before you mix religion and politics. Keep it, if you want to have you have to have an opinion, but don't make it a religious thing. Because the moment you go there, also because religion is a lot more nuanced than politics. With religion, you start taking right wing, left wing, and then you put you into a place that you don't want to go into.
Oh, convince the guy too.
Anyway, huh?
Here, the Rebbe also trying to convince the guy. It's not like the pasuk and Chumash and Rashi.
Right?
How you talk to the guy that you should say as a Jew. He's trying to get the guy to realize that.
Right. So if you want to change policy, right? It has to come right in Hanami. Don't bring religion. Where is it in the Farbrengen? Second or third sikha? It's too long sikha about Mashiach. Mistake. Second and third sikha.
Human rights for gender interaction. That was like normal for us. Yeah, but if you become, we did influence by that nothing.
My father, another interesting Kesher to Chavches ניסן. My father had a very interesting and then Meine and to that Sikha. So a few years earlier in Tafshin Mem Vav, we had to start earlier. Tafshin Mem Dalid, I think, in the Mem. So the Rebbe was talking Mashiach and storming about it. So my father spoke to Elik Friedman from Tzfas, one of the Friedman brothers, and he would, until today, I think he still does it. He makes likutim. I think Farchabadi still has a mother. He's very good. He makes likutim, short piskovim about different things and chassidus. So he said, there was talking Mashiach, so we can make a sefer with piskovim about Mashiach. So start being malakit, bring together different piskovim from existing chassidus bichlal and also from the Rebbe's Farbrengen. So he worked on it for a while. And Tafshim Mem Vav, there was a sefer ready. And the sefer was supposed to be called Golus V'Geula. I think it was, Golus V'Geula. So he sent it into the Rebbe. Now, in general, he gave out Sfarim in English. But here, because the original likud was done, over the original, so once he started doing the likud, like, we do the likud, before we translate it, the likud itself is a Gavaldik sefer. So let's give out the likud in Hebrew, and then we'll translate it into English. So he sent into the Rebbe the sefer. And it's a Tafshim Mem Vav, and this is at the height, there was talking of Mashiach, and every Farbrengen, those years, that's what I was speaking about constantly. And it was in Adar time, and the Rebbe gives out an answer, and my father was completely shocked when he received the answer. So here, Rish Chodesh Adar Tafshim Mem Vav. My father sent in the sefer. The Rebbe looked at the sefer. The Rebbe sent out an answer with three points. 1, 2, 3. They wrote like this: butter. It's clear. Number 1. Shesefer kehanal yeoirer milchama, underlined be'emunah b'bias Mashiach b'karev, o yegadlo yoiser b'chugim shekvar nilchamim v'atitzois muvanis. So the Rebbe wrote an answer like this. The Rebbe wrote 3 points. And in these 3 points, the Rebbe addressed 3 different crowds that the sefer might affect, or different parts of the clientele. 3 crowds. The first crowd that Rebbe addressed was those that have mulchama in us, misnagdim. The second crowd is anash and mekuravim. The third crowd is people that were mefetz mayonis to, people that we do have influence on. First, the Rebbe addressed those that are fighting us, and the Rebbe addressed anash, and the Rebbe addressed people that were being mashpia on. And very interesting. So the first Rebbe said like this: a sefer like this will bring a war, and they have underlined war. In emunah and bias Mashiach, those a war in those that fight. Sorry, it's going to bring a war in people are going to start fighting the concept of Mashiach, of believing that Mashiach is coming very soon, or it's either it will start a war, or those that already fight us, it will add flame to the fire, right? Add fuel to the fire. And it's very, very clear what the outcome of this will be. Again, underlined. In other words, be very, very clear. Bit 2, Anash v'akroivim aleim eins kukim lanau ki b'hanachlis misaninim yoyser me'asher b'sefer. Anash and those that are close to Anash, close to Lubavitch, don't need such a sefer because they're more interested in hanachis of the farbrengen that were coming out at the line, or the Rebbe would farbring and a transcript of the bring came out. Or they don't need svarim. Father, when you got like Anash don't need svarim, like no one buy svarim. They read hanachis. So it's interesting. I was just speaking to Yoska Greenberg.
Jacobson's paper. You read it.
I was just speaking to Yoska Greenberg a month ago. He told me. He remembers when Meineke says, "What's going on?" He says at the time, this was his take. He says, then early Menvav, says a few months before this, that's when he started working with Gershon Eichhorn and other Chevra on putting together the Sichas Kodesh, right? That's when the first Sichas Kodesh came out. They were going on making everyone get any Hanocha, right? For 30 years, all the Rebbe's Farbrengen didn't exist. No one knew where it was. You were in Tavshim and Beis. You wanted to find the Farbrengen, the Rebbe Farbrengen in the Yuds, in the Chafs. It didn't exist. You had a few individuals that wrote Hanochas for themselves, and either you had those old stencils, you had it from Rabbi Yael or from other. The average guy didn't have Hanochas. You had the old Kisvei Kodesh, bound if you bound it on your own. The average guy didn't have. And they decided they're going to go on a massive campaign. They went around, they traveled, and they found old Hanachas. Many friends didn't have Hanachas. And they sat and they listened to tapes, and they wrote down word for word. And that year, they started giving out Hanachas. And the Rebbe never, and it was like, obviously, and it was Bachram doing it, and the people on the higher-ups weren't so happy with it. And also, they never acknowledged it. And the Rebbe didn't acknowledge it. And all of a sudden, he says, when this Maina came out, and the Rebbe basically said, people don't need Sfarim. Anash, they want Hanachas. They don't want Sfarim. Because for us, it was like a massive Indian. But also, the Hanachas of the time, when people are following the Rebbe's Farbrengens. My father told me, like, at the time, he was like thinking, like the Rebbe was one making such a story, especially those years, they finished a year or two before, the Rebbe said that she gave out Sefer Likut, which was a kitz, Ktoim of Chassidus from the Tzemach Tzedek. That for 5 years, the Rebbe just got a whole bunch of Bachar and Young to give out Sefer Likutim, which is small Nikudis of Chassidus. And like this is just like a natural hemshich. It's like the next step. No, Anash don't need a Sefer. They're interested in Hanachas. 3, HaSefer lo yosef klal ba'fotzes Torah mitzvahs v'chayitz b'zeh. Yazik latzlachas ha'mivtzoyim v'chayitz b'zeh. A Sefer like this won't add in Afatzes Mayonis, and it's going to ruin the tzlach of the Mivtzoyim and similar things, Mivtzoyim and Torah mitzvahs. So my father gets a minor like this, and it's like, and what's in that Sefer? Ultimately, this was Sefer. This is the Sefer of Megillah L'Gula. Anyone knows the Sefer? What did he call it in the beginning? I think it was the Golos L'Gula, something like that. Now, Megillah L'Gula, as it's printed, ultimately had many sichos of later years, and that's where this really got a little more radical. This is Tashim and Vav. What was in that Sefer? It was K'toyim. You have the story that they told Remendel Haridaker, the Mashiach's here, and he had to open the window to smell if Mashiach came. It's just comment about Mashiach. You can't shemain, like what's the big shturim? And the Rebbe was talking about Mashiach. You can't print such a Sefer. After Chavches ניסן, the Rebbe said this sicha, and then a week later, so Chavches ניסן was Thursday night. A week later was Shabbos Parshas Tazria Mitzvah, a week and a day. And the Rebbe said that someone's asking, okay, bring Mashiach. How do you bring Mashiach? And the Rebbe said the derech, Yeshara, Kala, the Mehira, the straight, easy, clear way to bring Mashiach is through Limud Yonigol Mashiach. My father hears this sicha, and he's like, okay, I have a ready Sefer. Oh, now meanwhile, what happened is, so they get this minor, they get this answer, and like the moist is like, okay, whatever money they put into it and all the time they put into it, they're not printing the Sefer. But my father tells Alec Friedman, he says, right now we can't print it, but somehow my father felt, the Rebbe would tell me no. That's it. The Rebbe could just wrote to me, no, don't print it. The Rebbe writes to me 3 answers, and I feel like the Sefer, it's not mufrich bikar, it's not be'etzem mufrich. There's issues. Today there's issues, so don't be issues, or whatever,
things can change. It's something that's totally bismara, so things can change. So he tells them, you know what? Every Farbrengen, every time there is Farbrengens, you hear the Rebbe sees a word about Mashiach, write it up and put it and add it to its place in the Sefer. Meanwhile, this went on for the next 5 years. And Beryl Bell told me that he remembers like inside the voice, like it's a waste of money and what's the point? Like everyone wanted to say, what are you doing? Father, I'm not printing anything, but add it to the likud. And the likud's growing every sikh, every Farbrengen, everybody says the word, they find the place where to put it and they put it in. Now he hears this sikh. So time to give it in. So I have to print the Sefer. So you go through labels. He went to label and tells it label, given the Sefer. He says, "You're crazy. I remember what the Rebbe wrote to you. I'm not giving in the Sefer." Fine. So he has to start the. He goes over to Yudel and he tells Yudel, there's a Sefer here. I want to print, and he told him whatever he had to tell him, and he said, some people don't want the Sefer, and. The Payal, so Yula brought in the Sefer to the Rebbe. My father, we heard from Label. Label came in one day, and it was like the Rebbe basically comes in they told the Rebbe about Mincha, and he sees the Rebbe reading the Sefer, and he went out to my father, screaming, "Hey, talking, you brought it into the Rebbe's room, and I told you." And the Rebbe, for 10 minutes, the Rebbe went through the entire Klivitz, in words, was printed, and the Rebbe sent it out, and the Rebbe said, "Mekan drucken," and it was printed in a few Klivtzim over the next few months, and then Elul, they gave it to the Rebbe, the whole Sefer, and the Pesach Dover, and very interesting. There was Magia, Pesach Dover, a lot of interesting shinuyim. One of the things was that they brought there the Sikha from Tazir Mitzayir, where the Rebbe says to learn Yonagol Mashiach. And so that's where the Rebbe says to learn, learn Yonagol Mashiach in Torah Shbichsav, Torah Shbal Peh, Pnimis Torah, and till the Torah. Right, there says Mamar Malkut Sichas of Nesidereinu. The Torah of Nesidereinu. So in the Sichas, the Torah of Nesidereinu. So given to the Rebbe. So here they put that keta in the Pesach Davar of the Sefer, and it said. So the way they put in the Pesach Davar is they took out all the sugrayim. Many of the words there are in parentheses. So they put just the main point. So the words Mamar Malkut Sichas are in sugrayim aren't there. But it says that to learn the Torah of Nesidereinu. The Torah of Nesidereinu, the Rebbe added in Kveitos Shemay V'Chami Yadmor. Because in the Sikh, it says the Torah, Mamar, Makud, Sichas, and Sidereno. Here, they wrote the Torah, Sidereno, Achak, Machan, Mor. They've added in the Sefer. In other words, the way it's brought in the Sefer is different than the way it's in the Sikh. They've made a few changes there in the Sikh. Anyway, so it's printed. In other words, now then we are going to Mashiach, this is the Derech. But ultimately, what's the word? What's the word learning Mashiach? So it's the Indian Atzmi, learning Mashiach, you bring Mashiach. But then a few weeks later, everybody explained what's the real word? What's the Nikud of learning Mashiach? What's the main thing? It's not just a school, like learning Mashiach. There's many things have a school to bring Mashiach, right? I remember it was in Eretz Yisrael and Reli Halperin was Farbrengen, and he made a list of 52 things that the Rebbe said were not even to bring Mashiach. Fine, I think it's nice. It's a good list. In my opinion, it's still missing the point, or it's a lot missing the point. Or first of all, every single mitzvah brings Mashiach. The Alter Rebbe says that Kol Masin Aveda Seino brings Mashiach. I'm saying everything is bringing Mashiach. Well, that's the whole purpose of Torah mitzvah. It's not the vart. It's a lot more. It's not just another thing. So every day I should make up, split up the 52 things to 52 weeks of the year. Every week do another. The Rebbe says the vart is that when you learn Yonagol Mashiach, it becomes part of who you are. Right? It's in the seichel. The seichel is choyder lelev. And you start living with it, and it becomes meaningful to you. In other words, what's the Rebbe's problem? What was the Rebbe's taina and chavchasness? The taina is that no one cares about Mashiach. So it's like, okay, there's only one way to care about it. That's the first thing the Rebbe says, take achrayis. That was number one. That was step one. Take achrayis. Then the Rebbe says, how do you care about something? When you know about it. Knowledge is power. Yeah, how can you care about something you don't know about? I want Mashiach. Why do you want Mashiach? I don't know. You see anything, you want to get someone excited about something, he knows what it is. It means something to them. There says learn, and now you'll take it. Maybe now you can take a scream with an emes. Maybe now you can take a kier. Maybe zikr. In other words, the more you learn, the more you know, and the more you care. That's an nekuda. It was very interesting. The three things that Rebbe wrote. But that's the thing. Today it was Zaina Koch by Zich and by Andere. Pasha to know. In other words, what Rebbe was saying. Until now, sort of Mashiach, like the Rebbe lived. The Rebbe lives Mashiach. The Rebbe seen Mashiach from day one. Us, you do what you got to do. The Rebbe is Mashiach, and we sort of follow.
The Rebbe is saying, no, now you are Mashiach. Now this has to become, you're in the boardroom. You're not just an employee. You have to enter the board. You have to buy into the vision of the company. It's not just enough to do what the company wants from you. You have to buy in. This has to become your vision. This has to become your thing. If it becomes your thing, it can and develop. Okay.
So what could have been wrong with the sexual attention? It's not Chakos.
I'm saying the problem is that everyone wrote the problem is. You're saying, why was it a problem? You're saying what changed now, and will it not be Merachik?
What do you think?
No, I think the part is that Mashiach was so toxic then, because of the there was a matziv then. Gershon Ber as Yechidus. I'm not every word of Gershon Ber as Yechidus and Daik or whatever, but he said the one the Yechidus that is in Parsim. So it was after they came up with Rambam. It was Memhei. That year they were kocht in Rambam. Memdal the Rebbe started with Rambam, Rambam, and throughout Memhei the whole year they were stirring Rambam. Every Farbring was tons about new Yom Tovim were invented that year, like Chav Tevis the Rebbe Farbring because it's Rambam day. They were kocht in Rambam, and the Rebbe then told Gershon Ber that until now, when I came up with new Miftzoyim and Bnei Brak and other places, they went against it. I was like, say that, because it's new, it's different. We didn't see it by our. But now with Rambam, I couldn't imagine that people are going to go against Rambam. Rambam, that's like the ultimate Litvisha thing. Like that's what they do in the yeshiva. It's all about the Rambam. And says now they're fighting Rambam. Now I'm convinced that it's not about this mitzvah that it's something personal. So I'm going to say that there's a Seres Dibris. I'll say that there's 11. Or it was a matzah. Whatever the Rebbe said, whatever the Rebbe went public with, the Rebbe said Lamashal. Then was Mi Yehudi Shleimus Haaretz, and the Rebbe was very, very clear to let's say Vad Shleimus Haaretz, Vad Shleimus Ha'am, Mi Yehudi. It shouldn't be a Lubavitch thing because the moment it's a Lubavitch thing, people are gonna run away from it. It's Lubavitch, and it's the same thing with Mashiach. It's like Lubavitch will give out a sefer about Mashiach. It's not going to help for Mashiach. I'm just going to be mazik and afatzis mayon. That was like the avir at the time. That was what happened later. I don't know exactly what changed, but there was a certain point where the Rebbe basically said, it's almost like with all the dangers and with all the sfeikis, with all the nyanim, but I have to do it. It has to be given over. You see, sign the Purim Sif, I tried all I can, nothing else worked. So I have to give over Mashiach to everybody because there's no other way. If Mashiach won't become,
that could be one point.
Right? There's another point. Yeah.
What you could be saying is that either it didn't change, but they just getting desperate.
Or because the world became more acceptable.
Or everything else. They always followed suit 10, 20 years later. So here it's a few years, and then we'll
right. And the other was more macabre. Also after the Gulf War, the other one was more macabre. The Rebbe and it was. I want to say another point. There's a whole other point. Besides for Lubavitch, from what? Yeah.
Give him some sushi.
I'm saying after every time I stop, I say. I want to say another point on Mashiach. It's not just about Lubavitch and politics. The whole message of Mashiach, it's a very scary thing. So many times spoke about it. And Rebbe said, Mashiach, it's crazy. Mashiach is craziness. Right? There's a reason people hear the word Mashiach, they're like, there's something crazy about it. In Eretz Yisrael, you want to say that someone went nuts. You say, yeah, he's like, the bear in other words, when you want to say a guy is like, I had to say, guy starts believing in himself, or habibistim mishichim keilu. Yeah, it's not. In other words, it's like a guy starts believing in like crazy things, and it's a bit off the radar, and it's like this guy's like messianic, like he's.
Sorry.
Huh? They himself, and they never spoke about it. Like right after Hey Tavis, the Rebbe said that now the only avoid is to bring the goal, and the Rebbe said Mashiach. It's like crazy. Like you can't live a normal life if you're constantly living with Mashiach. They said, but what can we do? Because this is the shlichus, this is the avodah. There was a certain element of with all the with all the danger and with all the craziness, but this is the way we're going to do it. And that was the reason why it always belonged to the Nasi and it wasn't given to the regular people, because they're not kalim for that kind of energy. It's crazy energy, Mashiach energy. And it says, but now it's all, every single person, you got to take this energy and then channel it. Right? But you have to take that Mashiach energy, and the world is a keli for it today. And you see today, speak to people today, it's, in a way, first of all, the crazier the better. Yeah? But it's also, you see what people speaking about today. Elon Musk, he's building the future. He's building life on all these Mars, all these crazy things. Mashiach's a lot more practical than stuff people are into. But the point is, that's what people, in a way, this is like where people are. They want to hear something. What do you stand for? What's your vision? Where are you going? Have a vision, long term, short term. Anyway, back to the main point. When Miguel Lamaisa said, if every person will take a chrayis on something, right, Avi? So every person here, take a chrayis.
I've been in charge of the Fabrengs. I've been in charge
of the Fabrengs.
You didn't say what? No, yeah.
So the same point. Every single person will be every person wants to take a chrayis. How can you run a kill like that? It's too much oirs to tell you. But that's fine. Oirs to tell you. Fine, but kill the tikkun. You have the ability to bring it all together. But every single person.
Maybe it's next level is to give the designated jobs.
Don't delegate and don't designate. Let every person choose their thing. That's where you're going wrong. See, that's why no one's taking your jobs. Get them to choose their job to make their thing.
I didn't give out a job.
Oh,
that's what we're waiting for.
Everyone take
now
their
hiring.
Now hiring. The CEOs. Now hiring CEOs. Yeah.
Now hiring. The Shachas come out and just move for 10 over here. Every day. So there's a 3 event.
First 10, then 3.
You settle for the summer.
We'll settle for the summer.
Sounds like your Kabbalah's ready over here. The guy can ready page. Well, we 10 and 3 slightly different. There were 2 separate things. I'm actually in a 58.
Right, that's already like big popolim, and we already have enough popolim that sikha. I'm not going to get. But one thing that is important to recognize, after all that, the Rebbe says, "I did all I can. I'll give it over to you." And then a minute later, I'm giving you all to add what I could to bring, what I can bring to the party. I'm giving you shlichus. You just gave it up like an Indian giver. Yeah, you gave it up. A second later, he takes it back. What's the vart? I'm giving it to you, but now what am I? What's going to be my part in this? That I'm going to give you for a shlichus aftztake. I'm going to give you all the koiches that you need to do your thing. Right, very similar to the Maimon Vata Tetzaveh. The Rebbe speaks of there's a stage of Vata Tetzaveh where Moshe Rabbeinu does it, and then there's a stage of Yichoi Lecha where the Yidden initiate and they add to Moshe Rabbeinu from on their own. But then all at the end of the Maimon, the Rebbe says that even the Yichoi Lecha comes from the Vata Tetzaveh. Right, ultimately, it all comes from Moshe. So the Rebbe is saying, yeah, I'm giving it all to you. You're all CEOs. You're all Balabatim. And but ultimately, at the end of the day, the Rebbe is the one that's giving to Moshe to Machnaf Shliach Avtztake. You're a Shliach now. Why are you Balabas? Because you're Shluch on Kamoise. That's why. Because you're a Shliach. You have that dollar. You take that dollar, and with that dollar, you can buy pizza. Kamoise Mamish. Chelik elikami mal mamish. How do we do these things? We stop them or we go? How's the what? How do these matzavim happen? We go.
Go. Non-stop.
Or you do a kibbutz simchas.
Action.
Go. Yeah. He was there by the sikha?
There, he's listening. And
yeah.
He burst out laughing.
So him and the Rebbe were on the same team. He was always on with the Rebbe on the same.
Sooner or later. That's so familiar.
Coming in the morning.
I am outside, so.
Chef Edition of the day, Aaron has every head yet. Fine, this is the yeshiva completely took over, so we have to.
Yiddish
Because that's what New Haven Yeshiva is known for. Speaking Yiddish. Yiddish Mendel?
By the way, everybody speaks responsibility on one person himself. Right? What's the point of this? Isn't that the whole story? What's a wunder? A wunder. The guy is all over himself. So we're gonna start with give us. This was no.
The same story. There's the story that's hungry. There was nobody known. They would call it the Rebbe, the great, the Rechaim. They called him Wunder Rabbi. Miracle. So one of like a newspaper wanted to interview, and they asked him, "What's pshat of Wunder Rabbi? What distinguishes a Rebbe, a Rav, how do you reach this?"
Oh, what is he? The Wunder Rebbe?
Now we can read. Now we can go back to all the. Wunder Rabbi. A rabbi. So a rabbi of a congregation. That's sure. A Rav, a city, a Rebbe, Siddim. Wunder Rabbi controls the Rav himself. That's Wunder Rabbi.
This is Amos.
That's the Ma'aper Avi, I think. They said Strauss said started off trying to change the world. Then he said, "I can't change the world. I'm going to change the conflict."
The Rebbe says we could. The Rebbe says we could. He says he can.
You have to hear the story.
Yeah.
So then I realized, you know what? I can't change the world, but I'll change Ganzlita. Ganzlita. I never Ganzlita. Then he realized, not shy. Ganz Kelm. He's in Kelm. He can take over the whole city of Kelm. My shul. And at the end, I realized the only place I could change is Yisrael. I would have started off with Yisrael, could have taken over the whole world.
I never heard
Right,
that.
but the Rebbe.
So the Rebbe said, ask for yourself.
Right, but Lepoil, the Rebbe will tell someone, take over the world before you take over yourself. It's we don't have time. We don't have time.
After 30 years, you haven't got anywhere yourself. You might as well start. Go on.
The Rebbe once explained by Arichis that there's two shittas. What comes first, Binyan Beis Hamikdash or Kibbutz Goliath? Right, which one? That's one of the big machlokes with the Tzionis. Right, the Tzionim would say that first is Kibbutz Goliath, first comes Eretz Yisrael, and then Mashiach and Beis Hamikdash. But the Rambam Paskins first to be Beis Hamikdash, then Kibbutz Goliath. So the Rebbe, for bringing the Rebbe connected it to two Ifanim. What comes first? Kshoit Atzmecha v'Acharkach Kshoit Acherim, or Kshoit Acherim v'Acharkach Kshoit Atzmecha. There's two shittas. There's the Lechatchila first have to Kshoit Atzmecha, but Lepoil when you get Lamaisa Kshoit Acherim v'Acharkach Kshoit Atzmecha. Or the Rebbe, or the way the Rebbe said it. Or the Rebbe said like this. What is Kshoit Atzmecha? How do you do Kshoit Atzmecha? Through Kshoit Acherim. In other words, you can only do Kshoit Acherim through Kshoit Atzmecha. How do you do Kshoit Atzmecha? You do your shlichus. Your shlichus to help other people. See, the way you help yourself by stopping to think about yourself. Today, in other words, when a person's obsessed about themselves, they get into their own head. It just brings them down. The way to be able to deal with yourself in a healthy way is by not thinking about yourself. Al-Bakr came to the Rebbe in Yechidus. I think it's like the first Yechidus that we have muge from the Rebbe. That would be Magia Yechidus. From time to time, people would go into personal yichidusin and they would write up a transcript of the yichidus that would be menkiyat. The first one that I know exists, and it's been printed, is with Beryl Yonik in ER Tafshin Yud, before the Rebbe was officially in Kabbalah in the sea. It's a few months after Yud Shvat. And right at the beginning of the yichidus, he tells the Rebbe that, in life he has ups and downs, and life is so hard, so complicated. It's ups and downs, or whatever, like some some new thing. No one ever heard about this issue before. Right? It has highs and lows. So right off the bat, the Rebbe tells him, in Atzilus, there's shinuyim. In Atzilus, there's ups and downs, there's changes. But Lamata, there shouldn't be shinuyim. What's the pet? Like, first of all, the Rebbe's like telling him, Lamayla shinuyim, you shouldn't have shinuyim, but it's much deeper than that. The Rebbe's basically telling him, he comes to the Rebbe, I have shinuyim, more I'm a human being, and I have chisra, and I have issues, and I have ups and downs. The Rebbe's telling him, it has nothing to do with humans. In Atzilus, there's ups and downs. Atzilus is alikus. Whereas ups and downs is the reality of existence, not just of life. Huh? Yeah, that's Vishayiv. And there's Tesefes Oiris and Atzilus. There's when there's more oir, there's less oir. We add Oiris and Atzilus. We add highest alikus. In other words, this is the reality. There's ups, there's downs, there's highs, there's lows, there's night, there's day. How did Moshe know if it's night and day when he was at Lamaila? Depends if the Malachim were saying Kaddish or Baruch, there's changes. In other words, that's all. And so the Rebbe says, so what should you do? The Rebbe said, what you should do is tracht zu viel wegen sich. Think too much about yourself. An hour, they think about other people. An hour a day, it's a lot of time. And like, well, but how do you grow that way? The Nakuda is the way to grow on your own is by thinking about others. In other words, stop obsessing about yourself. If you obsess about yourself, you just bog down and you get into this whirlpool of emotions. And today, Kshoit Achirim is the way to Kshoit Atzmach. Huh? Yeah. But there he said, the part of Lamed Beis is that when you see that the nefesh is ikr and the guf is tafel, so you're all the same. There's no difference between you and other people. But Rebbe is saying more. Deal with others, and that's the way that you'll be able to. It's not just because you're all equal. There's a mila. By dealing with other people, you're able to deal. Only through that you're able to work on yourself properly. As long as you're in your own ego and your own self and your own mind, you're just gonna spiral out of control. But then about the tzava, there's something even deeper over about Perek Lamed Beis. Perek Lamed Beis, the Alter Rebbe says that in order to have Yisrael, you have to make your guf batul tafel and your guf tafel and the nefesh ikr. About the tzava, the Rebbe says obviously Yisrael has to go into the guf as well. Even in a level where the guf is important, you can have a connection with other yid. Because if not, then your Avos Yisrael won't be choder into Tinon Gashmi because Gashmi is. In other words, if Avos Yisrael is predicated on only thinking about the nefesh and not the guf, so how do you help someone with business? There's no guf. Like, come to Fabreg and say l'chaim only nefesh. We're on a high, but you have to help the guy with Gashmis. In other words, your help is going to help him in a place where Gashmis does mean something. So you have to take that nefesh, and even when you deal with the guf, you're able to see the other person's guf also as a helik gazach. But there's no division. Nefesh, guf, nefesh l'kis, nefesh bahamis, kedusha, choil. Alt is alikus. Alt is ein in mulvade. No bachram v'saken. Waiting for the after party. What's mahalchem? Anigan. Very cool.
Halchem did I Shabbat after party?
Yeah.
We started with after party. We're straight to the Fabring.
You should good. I hope you don't have like 20 people after Fabring, and that now they're taking a chayes to run the Fabring, and it's going to be.
Oh, guy. No problem. No problem.
Yeah. It's not New Haven's struggle.
I don't have to go to show. I thank you. Yeah, no. This guy wants
Yeah. The chassan I was here.
What?
The chassan I was here for like a month.
2 weeks. Yeah,
10,
over 10 years.
so, remember, I was here for a couple of weeks. Except for where did I stay? I stayed in the dorm, I think. Yes, in the dorm. Huh? No, I just came to 2 weeks before my wedding. My wife's in France. I just came here. And then I came for Ringer a few times. Zal.
Years later, it's not happening in 2 years. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole idea. Make the whole. Later became a national holiday. It's like a joke. Yeah, that's what it is. Well, today it's more later. My friend, you know, with Buck, you see that. You're Buck, right? So he doesn't accept it. You know, sorry, he doesn't care. It's like this to us. It comes ahead. Oh, you don't have to. No, there's enough people that got companies and killed it. Think how many people, the father dies, get over to his kid and kill the company. It's included, ultimately, it's Messiah. So we should be killed out, and then we say this first, thinking about this morning. In a way, check up the station when the Rebbe was teaching it out of town. So the Rebbe is teaching, and you're like in Cabo. The Rebbe is saying it didn't work. No, that model didn't work. It didn't. Because the next you got, you didn't get the back, you didn't get the and now it's in the Kuda of Yom. Now I'm giving you the Zach away. Now I'm not teaching you. And now it's yours. I'm bringing way that crap. Yeah. So now, but now, every song has yes, which very experienced. Very experienced. Says, it's one actual firm say the word that and they're not from the stance is what we do the boy. You never know when so now it's not as fast as in other words, right. But what? The scouts were so strong that the weather got from the staff in order naturally flow. But now something happened. You're doing the right moves, but because the part of the skills, you're not getting the point. So now you're in a way, that's the status now is elevating you that. So now you're itself. It's business. Yeah, more. Say that more. More is that more. Who's the also, you see the stiff, but what's the word about more? Whatever right away says, hey, we can join the league, want to break, I want to play at the more. How to try it? Tell you, in a bear. So they're going to take the tool and the player and the racket of more. What's the answer? The answer is we say in that Torah, and everyone says Nitzah Mashiach. In other words, everyone has Nitzah Mashiach. The answer to that word, you know, Mashiach, the same word, everyone Nitzah Mashiach. Same thing, everyone Mashiach, everyone's the Rebbe, everyone is, yeah. It has to be, always say Mashiach. You have big lamps, you have it, the solid straw, you have, Shabbat, right?
the Chiddush is that even the Shabbos of Chiddush, we should have that.
You see, let's say, a whole shift is to get to children. What's the birth that happens? What's the chiddush? Yeah, all kinds of yukim. What's the nekuda? The nekuda is until that happens. We're in verse 2 of Pashtus. Until Perikhes is Shabbat Torah. Perikhes after Shabbat Torah and comes Shabbat. What's the Rebbe's word? Shabbat Torah in Shabbat. Shabbat Torah in Shabbat. There's a nekuda. Shabbat Torah is Shabbat Torah. You can only come with Shabbat Torah to Shabbat. Remember, it's called the Ha'ara. In a Shabbat person, a regular person, and that's all. That's all.
That's
It's all.
Why?
I would say the avoid forming the Rebbe's chiddush and avoid the Rebbe's big side and avoid the sichets and follow and it's three prakim of the time. It's the ha'ara of the chudnei law. Yeah, it's all there. You see the Rebbe said it hundreds of times. Yeah, it's all there. And that's just the basic commitment.
Yeah.
I would tell you the biggest crime give the commitment is. Did anyone ever hear learn Kuntres Chaim? Or parts of Kuntres Chaim?
The first time.
Huh? What besides for the first page? Any other parts? How to write artists and how to come to Seder and the Seder. Right. So I was doing it when I was in Rouen, other places. So people would tell us to learn from Perikles Beis and on.
Right.
And under this whole thing, it's a trad. It's bad. It's Kuntres Chaim. It's a very weird. What's Kuntres Chaim? Kuntres Chaim is the manual for Tim Hitzvim. Huh? Love Zayin Ches. Love Zayin Ches. Zayin Ches. It's your basic on Zayin Ches. Oh, there's a chayda. Right, the chayda, a guy comes to a company, a business, and there's rules. So you give them a list of rules. First of all, what are the rules here? And then you tell them, this Kuntres Chaim. You only start thinking about the rules and what the moised is in Sifcha Beis. By the time you're Sifcha Beis, you fell asleep 5 times already, yeah? What's the good? Because you can't come to Tim Chitzvim if you don't get the vision. It's all about the vision. And the vision is Yichudi Lo Yichud Torah. That's the vision. And Bimam Yichudi Lo Yichud Torah. Once you have that, yeah, when's the Seder start and how to write an artist and how, but that's already the Pil Yoitz, that's the Pratim. What's your Rav Chavtas Nissen? What's your Rav? Figure it out. It's the vision. The whole part is the vision. Vision is a bad word. Legacy is a bad word. Vision also became a bad word. Division.
Left. Stay. Kington. Union. By days. Division. Leah Smith. Lee. I said the first one is Rabbeinu Nissim, so it's an older story.
What's Rabbeinu Nissim say?
No, it's a story. The story of
So it is a Jewish story.
They debated, No,
when you think about it, it's not what you think about. It's what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says that now I want Lubavitch to be a Ir Shekula Russian, which is crazy. It's like it's the biggest klal that Eliyahu Navi gave. But today we have the koyach. Might as well do a koyach for it. And the Ben Gurion say, yeah, that I have. He has a country of 200 million citizens. You only 6 million citizens. Yeah, I have 6 million prime ministers. The Rebbe says, yes, well, it's not 6 million prime ministers. Bring the gula.
That goes along the line. Everybody's believing, right? Same. You missed it. Yeah. What'd you do?
Oh, look at that.
You're gonna hit watch.
What do you say? Yeah, you're asking. I don't like a scum. There's like some controversy, That's. I really think, even from the youngest age, if we'll tell our Bachman from the youngest age, to knock into them the word personal responsibility,
and no one else is going to do it. And you, not only you have to have a chayes, you have the ability to get a
You know, it's almost like they.
So it also includes the sickles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I got the best one. That's a problem.
Right.
It's already the third one.
I think we have to change the conversation. We have to change the conversation about Yoni Gol Mashiach. In Yoni Gol Mashiach cannot be, I don't know what it's on the yeshivas, if it's a 10-minute or a post davening after Ayim Yom, before Ayim Yom, at night or once a week with Coke and oranges, because this is the Zionist. We
Describe the ideal setting. Describe the ideal setting.
After my bathroom break, where's the bathroom? The bathroom is where you come with the field set. Oh, bathroom. So my dad's to the right and Shabbos. Downstairs. You start with maybe what do you think? You said don't wait. Don't try. Oh yeah.
Telling you a little bit, you know. I'll have to drink, right? Feel okay?
Learn more. Mistake. No big difference. No change. What do you think? Over here. They didn't see it far. It's not. But do it. Very good. I'm so happy we're going to yes. Make sure. He's coming back. I came here to get out. I saw us.
No, I almost got impressed. What? I almost got impressed. They can't have a brain.
I didn't know what to do. Nobody here. Everyone knew about it. Never said, well, not to break it with the wings. Oh, the thing is over. Like, you know, and you find the clients, they might say, my triple color. What 4 minutes they've come. What do you call grandchildren? Your little kid. Grandchildren. I mean, you're really children. I'll be sure. There's no connection. And then
Think about it like this. Think of a company with a vision, yeah? So let's say right now, right? So Elon Musk is on a mission, free speech, right? And he has to convert all his employees, either convert them or boot them, whatever it is, to free speech. So they make a mitzvah free speech. So every day during lunch break, there'll be a 2-minute quote about free speech. Okay, that's one way. But that's not what they do. What do? In other words, if we see Mashiach as our mission statement and as who we are and what we're here for,
How did it become a post-davening? The Shalom Zachar this week, and the sponsor of the Kiddush, and Yonah Gul Mashiach, some quote from some whatever. The exact what's it? Exact model. The exact model. That's what I'm saying. So think. Let's say an whole meetings, right? So you have an whole. In a way, that's what it is. I'm saying what? Ein zwei drei bit was zu tun wie soll zu tun. So what's up with was zu tun wie soll zu tun? What's done wie soll zu tun are things that people that own companies, CEOs discuss was zu tun wie soll zu tun. Employees don't discuss, maybe discuss was zu tun, nicht wie soll zu tun. Whatever. It's creativity. The point is, it's creativity. All these things that they're to choice of ownership. When you own something, let's say my moiset. How do I want my moiset to run? What's the vision of my moiset? If Mashiach is our vision, not just something that we're doing a checklist and we have to add it. In other words, the whole idea of saying that there's 10 Mitzvahim and there's Rambam and there's Mitzvah Mashiach, it's a Litzonis. Mitzvah Mashiach, it's destroying the whole point. Mitzvah Mashiach, or it's like 10 Mitzvahim of Golus and there's Mitzvah Mashiach. So what's the word? Mashiach is basically the Rebbe saying, the Rebbe is, everything the Rebbe is doing is Mashiach. That's what the vision is all along. Everything was all steps. So, but the Rebbe was in the boardroom, and this is your job. You just have to make sure the algorithm. You don't, to their credit, yes, all these employees, they didn't just do the algorithm. All these employees bought into censorship, right? Where did they buy into it from? How did they get that? Because there was a quote after davening every day. Because they were inculcated with the idea that our job is to save America and make sure that the chulu. And now Elon Musk is coming and he has to inculcate his employees with money. We're on a mission of free speech. Free speech is definable. Living on Mars is definable. He made it definable. Climate change. Let's discuss climate change. Yeah, you have people that they're living climate change. Every decision they make and how to fly and what to eat. How do they buy into it? Let me tell you, climate change and life on Mars is a lot more crazy than Mashiach, and it's not happening anytime soon. So what's the word? Yeah, because these Shgoyim believe in it. And once you believe in something, everything they do, they literally, every policy, saying strong carries like something stark, yeah. There's a war going on in the world, and he's going on and he's saying there's a big problem with the war because the war is going to affect climate change. Saying millions of people are dying and losing their homes. The guy, what happened? He became such a mishachis. I'm saying he bought into climate change that he can't say anything outside of it.
What's happening? Meaning, I don't find it scientific. I want to look at the iota for
Okay, so are you asking what Mashiach is?
No.
Whatever Mashiach, let's say we know what Mashiach is. Okay, so a big part of the Rebbe's mitzvah is, we call it mitzvah. The Rebbe is saying, okay, take this big, crazy, massive thing where like you hear the word Mashiach, like somewhere between. Yeah, the biggest element of Mashiach is just like it's too big. But Chassidus are never scared of it. Perek Lamed Vav Tani. We're not shying away from. We're telling you what the purpose of life is. Purpose of life, purpose of creation, purpose of everything. A guy just started learning Tani. A guy just started learning Chassidus a few months ago. He's telling you what the purpose of life is. Tell them what to do. People don't want to hear purpose of life. We have a few people going to the mountaintops on the purpose of life. Yeah.
Let's make steps for world domination.
Jews have always had secret meetings how to conquer the world. What's the chiddush? We're taking elders of Zion and we're making it in public. It's not. We're bringing Mashiach. In the Torah of Zion, one of the things that Rebbe says, there's something very interesting that we didn't until the last few years. The Rebbe says, the Rebbeim, and Rebbe says, including myself, we didn't speak about Mashiach in public. It was spoken about once a year. I think the Rebbe says there, Yutas Kislev. Yutas, the entire year, what would the Rebbeim speak about for bringing about Chutz and Chassidus? Yutas Kislev will come and say, hey, what's the goal? What's the real story? Baal Shem Tov went L'mayla. Really, this is really what happened. How did the whole chassidus happen? Baal Shem Tov went L'mayla, asked, they must like Osimar. Okay, so that became the purpose. Now, Lepoyo, not every single person that was doing Afatzis Mayonis or that Afatzis Mayonis was being done to knew that it's all here because Mashiach said, and that's why Baal Shem Tov did it. You don't have to do it because that's too big. That's for like the editor-in-chief, that's for the commander-in-chief, that's for the boss, the CEO. You have to know. Everyone else, you do your small part. He's not a head counselor. You're not the director of the camp. Right? You don't want every counselor being a director of camp. You can't run a camp that way. Right? The game says every counselor thinks that they're the director. Here's a Kula Russian. They're all Rosh Yeshiva.
What changed?
As in why it changed or what changed? The Rebbe says very clearly that everyone's directors. Why? Now the question is why did it change? And the bigger question is how is that possible to work? Like I said, Eliyahu Navi said that it's a curse.
The meetings now should be learning Moshiach. Should be about that's somebody else. That's all in Moshiach.
Or no, it's in the Rebbe says until Mem Zayin was the model. So then the Rebbe said, why now? So I said, why did it change? Why all of a sudden I can't go buy a fabric without Zikah Mashiach? It's like, okay, of course, once in a while Zikah Mashiach. Zikah Mashiach, so is Mashiach. With the Skisle, Masai, you sing Masai Kasimai. The Rebbe says, but we can't go buy a few minutes. I'll talk about Mashiach. What's going on? That was Mem Zayin. Never mind. No base. The Rebbe can't speak about. There's nothing. The Rebbe can't speak 2 minutes without mentioning Mashiach. It's like a complete obsession. It's very interesting. The Rebbe says it's not because of the Rebbe. They said it's for the Chassidim. In other words, the way the Rebbe put it is because the Rebbeim, by then Mashiach was always Ripshit. That's who the Rebbeim are. They were telling to the Chassidim, they were saying words that the Chassidim have to deal with. Because that's part for the Chassidim. Why is the Rebbe now speaking Mashiach constantly? Because now what belonged to the Rebbe now goes to the Chassidim. And because the Rebbe is always living in a Mashiach reality. And